by now you're working on the snatch, you're working on that catch position, developing the overhead position, learning transition. I think that that's where people need to stay for a little while, and we'll get into pulling later, because pulling is really quite simple. At the end of the day, once you have that catch position, that's the most important part. The next thing I like to teach is actually not the clean, everyone would assume that, but the jerk. So I try to think of things in terms of complexity and how difficult they are. I like to start with the most difficult thing, and that is the snatch and the overhead position of the snatch. The next part that I like to focus on is the jerk. Now the reason being is because in the jerk, when we look at the data, I believe it was Bud Charnaga that came up with this, 50% of jerks on the third attempt are missed. So if you stop to think about that, we need to spend a lot more time working on the jerk. In order to work on the jerk though, we need to start with developing the overhead position again. So you're going to take your clean grip, and we can talk about this later as well. Some people will do what's called a Colombian jerk, where they take a wider grip, so once they clean, they'll kind of oscillate the bar a little bit and then move their hands out, so they have a wider jerk, which means the bar has to travel less distance. However, this also has a few disadvantages because of the shoulder position. You're not going to be as strong. So, in any case, overhead, once you get your arms more narrow, you have a really good base of strength there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work on the press. So I have people take a stance like you might stand if you were going to squat, okay? And we're going to go ahead and just press straight up and overhead. And there's two ways that people will do this. So you'll see some people that will jerk and they'll have their head up, and then you'll see some people that will push their head through. Personally, I find that the Chinese style of pushing the head through as they go into the jerk creates a lot more support. It engages the back, and I feel a lot of tension in my shoulders and in my traps, which makes me feel more stable overhead. You're going to have to figure out which one you feel most comfortable with, because there isn't a one-size-fits-all for these things. However, the way I'm going to go ahead and teach it is we're going to start with the press. Okay, so you're just going to get this stance like you would squat. Standing here, you just want to make sure your elbows are forward. You have that good rack position, right, that we talked about before. With rack positions and everything like that, the bar should be resting on your deltoids, not on your collarbones. You're going to tip your head back. You're like your Pez dispenser. Head tips back, presses up and through. Head comes back forward as we're pressing through, right? So head back, head forward. Back down, head back, head forward, right? And we've got this nice position where we're retracting the scapula, have our arms actively pressed all the way up and through, elbows are locked out. That's our overhead position. And you want to work on this with the press. Be aggressive, press hard, and practice this until this position becomes very natural and you automatically go to that position. That's what we're going to start this with. So start with a very aggressive overhead press.